At some point in your life, you will have to have an Abraham moment, even if it's generational for you, where faith becomes personal to you. Listen, you cannot ride coattails to blessings. It doesn't work that way. At some point, you have to hear God say to you, move, do something, trust me, let the chips fall where they may, but trust me, surrender the outcomes. And you have to have that moment in your faith. And I've been reading the King James, and so there's something about the King James that when I read it, it just speaks to me in a different way. And I've never really been a King James version guy, but I love it now. And I've been reading her notes, and it's been awesome. And I've been walking around the house speaking in King James to my kids. And my oldest actually said to me this morning, he goes, "Dad, why do you always sound like Jesus now?" And I had to break it to him. It was actually Shakespeare, not anyway. But verse 1 of chapter 12, when you read it in the King James, I love this. It says, "Now the Lord had said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country." I love that. Get thee out, and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land I will shew thee. Get thee out. And at some point in your faith, you will hear God say to you, whether you're third generation Christian, first generation, get thee out. If you read it in the Hebrew, Abraham's like, "I can't get out. I'm 75. He's like, "No, you got to get yourself out." And you have to put yourself in a position like Abraham, where you are saying, "God, I'm going to trust you and surrender the outcome." And where is it in your life? Maybe it's current. You hear God say, "Get thee out. Don't stay here. Trust me." And you don't even know where you're going, but you're going, "God, I'm going to get thee out." It could be at some moment in your life. Maybe it's when you were 17. That was the moment you got thee out of a circumstance. It could be at 17. You had all the wrong friends. And you grew up in church. But then 16, 17, you had the wrong crew around you. And at some point, maybe it was at a youth camp, maybe there was sawdust on the floor, but you heard God say to you, "Get thee out of those friendships. Get out." And you knew, you could see it clear as day. And at 17, you got thee out, and you became a candidate in that moment for the blessings of God, because you put yourself in a position where you said, "I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know who my prom date's going to be now." But your faith story connects back to that moment where you heard God say, "Get thee out," and you got out. It could be in college, where you were generational Christian, leader of the campus ministry, but you were dating the guy, you were dating the girl you knew you didn't need to date, and you heard God say, "Get thee out." And you were like, "But I thee like him." But you knew what you needed to do, and it pains you, and you walked forward, and you trusted God, and you got thee out. And you can pinpoint your faith journey to 20 years old, where you heard God speak to you, and you became a candidate in that moment for the blessings of God to fall on you because you got thee out. It could be right now you're in a business situation, and you know the crew that you're doing business with is not who you need to be partnered up with, and you're thinking through all the outcomes. Well, there's a lot of money on the line, and if I could just do this for 18 months or 2 years, but you just hear God saying over you, "Get thee out." And the moment you get thee out, you become a candidate for the blessings of God to intersect with your life in a powerful way, because you're trusting God and saying, "Okay, God, what do you have for me? Because I'm gonna leave this, and I'm gonna get thee out." And that's the moment for Abraham, and that becomes the moment for us. What's your get thee out moment in your faith story? That's the moment you become a candidate for the blessings of God. You probably think about your kids' future a lot. You probably think about your grandkids' future and college education and all those things. But pray over your sons, pray over your daughters, that at some moment in their life, when they're in high school or college, when they hear God say, "Get thee out," they would step forward in obedience, because in that moment, they won't just be recipients of secondary blessings, they will become candidates for the primary blessings of God in their story. Get thee out. Get thee out. Well, the question is, in that moment, when you get thee out, okay, God, where thee to? Where are we going? What's the plan? And that's where the faith element comes in, because in that moment, that's where I'm going, okay, God, I'll get the out, but I need to know what's the destination, what's the plan. As long as there's, a honeymoon suite, and there's a car, and there's a job offer, as long as there's a whatever it is, as long as I know what that looks like, I'll get the out. And that's not how the faith journey works. God says, no, relax in the mystery, trust me. This is Abraham's story over and over again. God comes to him at 75 and says, get thee out. And he steps forward. He's like, okay, where are we going? God's like, I'll show you later. He's 100 years old, and God comes to him and says, you're going to have a child now. Okay. Can you explain that? And God says, I'll show you later. We'll read this story in just a second, but he finally has a child at 100, Isaac, and God says, I want you to climb the mountain, Mount Moriah, and surrender the child, sacrifice the child. And that's a weird story. We're going to read it in just a second. And he's like, why? What? And God's like, just climb the mountain. Just do what I say. And over again, he's having to relax in the mystery of trusting God. And although he does not know where he's going, he knows who he's following. And that's the position of blessing. That's the position God wants you and I in. And you don't want to be in that position. You want to know the outcome. But God says, lean not on your own understanding. Surrender the outcome. And in that place of confusion, in that place of trust, in that act of obedience, you're a candidate for the blessings of God to intersect with your life in a powerful, unique way. And that's what happens to Abraham. Now we're going to read the next part of this, and it's important to say that the narrative of Abraham is not normative. And what I mean by that is God's going to be unique with you and your story and your act of obedience and the risks that you take to trust God. But it's going to look different than Abraham. God's probably not going to ask you to have children at 100 years old. I don't know. I would never put anything past God. But I don't think that's going to happen in your story. God's probably not going to raise up a nation through you. But what is applicable from this story is that in the same way God establishes a covenant bond with Abraham, he has established through the blood of Christ a covenant bond with you. And a covenant bond is different than every relationship that you have in your life. A covenant bond, we really don't have many covenant bonds really left anymore. Marriage, your relationship with your children, but most of our relationships are consumer relationships, which means I'll give you something, you give me something. If we're ever done with each other, it's over. And I'm a means to an end for you, you're a means to an end for me. And God has entered into a covenant bond with Abraham, and he has entered into a covenant relationship with you, which means regardless of what you do, God unconditionally says to you, trust me. And the promises of God are extended to you. And I will never let you go. I will never forsake you. I am with you, even in the most confusing moments of your business, even in the most confusing moments of your marriage. Trust me, lean not on your own understanding. And I am in a covenant bond. For God, you are not a means to an end. For your boss, you are a means to an end. But for God, you are the end. You're the goal. And he's in a covenant connection with you. And he's established that with Abraham. So it's going to look different than it does for you and I than it does for Abraham. But it's a covenant bond. And he says this to Abraham. He says, look, here's the deal. I will make you into a great nation and I will bless you. So there's a promise that comes. I will make your name great and you will be a blessing. And I will bless those who you bless. And whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed for you. And God raises up in the darkest moment in human history this one guy who says, I'll follow. And relax in the mystery of where you're going to go. And God says, here's the plan. I'm going to bless you so that you bless others. And nations are going to come through you. Religions are going to come through you. The lineage of Christ is going to come through you. The covenant's been established with you. You're blessed.